explain to the kids here that there will be some swear words and some violent things in this. And I deliberately explain what's going on here. The poems are set in jail. These are really violent people that I'm describing. And it's not that I have a perfectly pure mouth, but it's not that I stand up in public with cameras rolling and swear just freely. I'd have to be paid. Okay, so forgive me. Parental discretion. This is called Corrections, and it's set in the large penitentiary at Warkworth, which, as you know, is a bit north of Trenton. My friend works medium security and says of his mad charges, "You can't be angry. They're sick, shouldn't be here." To the near sane, he doles punishments when "fuck you, screw" is prelude to a shank, some soup spoon snatched and ground against the whetstone of the bars, a razor blade bound into a pencil's eraser tip, or merely the handle of a toothbrush made sharp as murder won. And stranger things. Back in stir after his biopsy, a man threatened to force a pen through the hole and crush his liver unless given Tylenol 3. He settled for extra strength and the promise of a doctor. "I was just joking," he added meekly, knowing threats of self-harm bring sanctions too. Days apart in an observation cell, diaper-clad and deprived of anything imagination could turn into a noose. Others would cut themselves or even rip open skin and muscle with their hands. One inmate slashed deeper than his scrotum, poured blood and half his entrails on the floor. Luckless, he missed the artery and lived. Some lifers, almost done, can no longer mount the stairs to the range or have left their wits at the scene. Times, muddled fugitives who could not pick themselves from a lineup. Beyond correction, a man with one leg weighs 500 pounds and may no longer lift himself. Torpid, he pisses and shits among the blankets, cannot wash or move. Cuffed to a history of offenses, manslaughter, released, and then child rape. His heart and kidneys wind down. My friend, tall as a linebacker, joins a staggering scrimmage of guards and paramedics as they hoist the stretcher down stairwells and across a lighted courtyard to the gate, where an ambulance waits to parole him. The next poem, and it will be my last, tricky poem to read. In the 19th century, you couldn't talk about sex without it embarrassing people. In the 21st century, you cannot speak about religion without it embarrassing people. And I know two people laughed, and every once in a while it's got silent. Yes, you did. I saw you. I'm looking at you. You may be looking at me. I'm watching you. I'm taking notes. There'll be a memo. And yet, you know, that's an interesting thing, because at least half the people in any room believe in some form of transcendence, something larger than themselves, and we do not write about it. Damn it, we don't write about it. We're not touching that one. And there are all sorts of reasons not to do it. You know, modernist poetry, we don't do that. Well, okay. Then poetry ceases to be about a big chunk of our lives. This poem is a commemoration of my cousin who died on, well, this is Holy Thursday in the Christian tradition, and my cousin died on Holy Thursday last year, and she was the first, well, I don't know, more or less the first child that was big enough for me to know how very different I was from her. She was, when she was born, she was 10 years younger than I was. She was coming into life as I was coming into consciousness. It's that stage. And then last year, she just gone, right? Just cardiac problem, and she is gone. And so, so the next day, I was at church, and there were 2 days later, and listened to, it was sort of the Holy Saturday events. And there's a word in here that you need to know if this tradition is alien to you, which fair enough. The Exultet is an ancient poem that's chanted very powerfully, if you get the right singer, announcing the resurrection. And it goes through the whole history of biblical occurrence, and it blasts it out, has big lines in it. Oh, Felix culpa. Oh, happy fault of Adam. You know, these are big lines. You may not believe the content of them, but in terms of the poetry and culture of the world, these are big phrases. And so I'm there in church, and I'm thinking about my poor little cousin. There's an image at the end, which most of you get, but I'll just mention it in case you don't know what it is. The Pietà is a famous sculpture by Michelangelo, and it is a statue of Mary holding the dead Christ in her arms. And it's in the Vatican. It's one of the world's great artworks. It's like the Mona Lisa, or of that statue. Anyway, enough talking. Read the poem. Sit down. Sit down. A log in its brazier makes sweet smoke at the door. I think it is cedar, but old Pete says nope. 2-hour log from Canadian Tire. The long candle is blessed. And so now come quotes from that long poem, and they'll be interspersed throughout. Christ yesterday and today, the beginning and the end, Alpha and Omega, all time belongs to him. The priest's vestments begin to ripple over flames. What if Al stole chasuble light up and his big frame turns lantern? The breeze relents, the fabric falls safe. He gathers flame on a splinter and lifts it to the candle. At the threshold he chants, Christ our light. We answer, thanks be to God. And the lights go round, taper to taper, 100 lit souls in country darkness. I remember Anne Colleen. Wide eyes, blonde hair, a little girl with a card shark's knack, knew what lay face down, what was in the deck, whether ace or deuce was on its way. The last time I saw her, 20 years on, was at Carnell's, while her daughter frolicked with dolls beneath her grandmother's coffin. This morning I hear of her unlucky inheritance from that good woman, who made 92 against the odds, clots floating in her veins. Without warning, Aunt Colleen's lungs filled. Emergency medics offered one chance, an induced coma and thrombolytics to break the clot. They loosened other hidden clots that swam straight home, heart attack after heart attack, and she was gone. That was Good Friday, and she was 41. A small parish. The choir leader plays deacon, and her voice from the loft trembles above the little flames. Rejoice, heavenly powers, rejoice, choirs of angels. My mind is elsewhere, though phrases break through. Rejoice, O Mother Church, exulting glory, the risen Savior shines upon you. There are all the chances that lie between my life and hers. My infinite good luck, health and friends and fortune. For me, love could not fail for long, which for others burned down to its unreviving ash and died. This life of mine passing dry-shod through the sea, this mystery of gifts. In the front pew, Pete grapples with a book of hymns, blows out the taper, and applies both hand and hook to the task. He is the age to have fought in Korea, and on Remembrance Day salutes the sad uniform hung to the left of the altar. He tells us it was not war, but gardening that took his hand. A mulcher bit it off. I almost wish he had the dignity of a numbered hill. I think, too, of the priest who nearly lost his faith, not because a farmer friend dropped dead, but because he fell face down in the mud. Happy fault or happenstance, the human heart will break to hear of it. And yet, laid side by side, presence and absence, glory and disarray, the years give back to grief the sense of light, and there is, for most, a reason to give thanks. And so it is. I am again a month shy of 16. The school year ending and everything else beginning. We circled the clover leaves, learned to shoulder check and to change lanes without risk of pileup. Waiting my turn in the back seat, I mouthed the verses of a hymn, silent and growing wordless as they wind downwards to whatever there is of me, the unmade self. In the nights of that week, I pray for every soul I can remember, face by face rising out of a boy's memory. By the weekend, my mind has surrendered to the light of June. I take communion in an evening church, as never before or after. I am given to love and fall from words. Half a lifetime passes, and I stand here on the night of resurrection, pondering the morning star which never sets, but promises return, Christ, that morning star who came back from the dead and shed his peaceful light on all mankind. A glory bound to littleness and sorrows,